A fly trying to walk off a flypaper.
I know exactly what you mean. Exactly. All buzzing and working and twisting away with the legs up to its neck and sticky stuff.
Just exactly like flies on a flypaper we were. It's only a march of about 200 yards to our quarters, but it was the longest, driest and dirtiest march we ever had. Every man in a lather of sweat, his clothes sticking to his skin, and his tongue hanging out of him like a dog's.
Oh, Sergeant, my own tongue's beginning to hang out like a dog here.
Well, I'm begging the sergeant's pardons and kind indulgences. I feel badly in need of a ball of malt. Thinking of my days out beyond the mess. What, God help us?
Well, I'm finishing up my notes here. When my notes is finished, we'll all have to be home to our beds. And thank God we have beds to go home to.
You never spoke a truer word, Sergeant. Sometimes
There
I
might
do.
be murders, no classes of illegalities going on when my back is turned.
That's a fact.
But
Sergeant.
what I don't see, I don't know. The law! The law is a very intricate thing, and nobody knows it better than myself.
Oh, spoken like a sensible man, Sergeant. Spoken like a sensible man. But of course we all know you're only doing your duty. Just as we were when we were out beyond the mess pot fighting in the King's uniform. Before it was burned off our backs by the sun, of course.
I suppose you had many's a bad time after you landed in those rubber boots.
Bad times. Bad times, is it? Did I not tell you about the desert?
No, you did not.
Oh, we had many a desperate time out in the desert. No man who lived through it would ever have the memory of it off his mind, not even if he had his brain washed, and that's a fact.
Good God, but I'd hate to have me brainwashed. It's bad enough having you.
There was a detachment of Arab madmen sighted out beyond, in some oasis or other. But there they were, mustering together to get ready to come in and attack us. Maybe 1,000 of them. And others coming in on camels to join them.
I'd be very nervous at camels.
So the order comes now that we were to get ready to go for them. March out and go for them before they had a chance to get themselves in the battle order. It was like this, gentlemen. I'll never forget it. As long as I live. Never.
Were they far out in the desert?
Maybe 20, 25 miles as the crow flies.
Just for bee crows in the desert.
It was 6 o'clock in the morning. Sick egg Emma, we called it when we got the order. Get ready to march in 2 hours. On with the rubber boots, and the belts, and the packs, and the bloody big rifles, and the water bottles. It was a load that would kill a man in his good health. And then out on parade with us. March! Left, right, left, right, left. A straggling string of men staggering out into the burning sands. A 24 hours forced march. But we were bet to the ropes. It was the shoes again.
I told you.
Shoot, did the rubber begin to melt again under us and give out little puffs of smoke? Soon your feet felt like two giants roasted with a fire under them.
Good Lord, Mr. Fool.
Don't be talking. Sure, when I get an extra stab of the heat, I give a leap into the air with the pain of it.
For the
But
love
when
of
I
God.
come down on the sands again, I get a worse roasting with the weight of the lamp. Sparks flying right, left and centre. And do you know what was happening all the time?
I suppose that the enemy lads would be lying in wait behind the trees.
What trees?
There'd be all classes of palm trees and the like out there.
I tell you what happened. I declare to God, the sun began to come down on us. Out of the sky, down on top of us. Every minute that passed, it seemed to get lower, down on top of our heads. And the heat, gentlemen, the heat. I can nearly feel it still. And after a while, I felt a queer thing happening.
I was going to say
Well,
that.
just shut up and let me
I
finish.
began to dry up.
Dry up.
Every part of me began to dry up. The first parts that got out of order were the mouth and the tongue. They got all dried and cracked inside. And then the tongue began to grow bigger.
Oh, holy hour.
It swelled out till it nearly choked me. It got as hard and dry as a big cinder. I couldn't swallow with it.
Oh, the Lord between us and all harm.
And so did all the insides of my mouth and my neck. got dried and cracked the same way, and all inside of me. It was like being grilled, but there was no gravy.
I suppose the eyes were affected too, Mr. Coulihan.
Oh, the eyes, man, the eyes. The eyes were singed and burned at the edges, and the watery parts. The watery parts dried in a way somewhat fierce. Before I know where I was, the eyebrows is gone. Hell itself scorched and burned away by the heat. It was desperate, desperate. But there we were, staggering out into that boiling, blazing, bloody, blankety blank heat. Our skin chipping and curling off our faces. Our bodies withering away like prunes. But the worst, gentlemen, the worst. A terrible dry thirst coming up our throats like a blast from a furnace. It was desperate, desperate.
I suppose you're
And do you know what the lads were doing, nearly every one of them? Took off their water bottles and flung them away. Do you know why? I'll tell you why. Them water bottles were made of metal. Some class of anodilium. Anodilium as thin as paper. Now, when that sun got to work on them bottles, well, I need to tell you what happened. Well, first of all, the water inside the bottle would get up to their boiling point. So even if you could hold the bottle in your hand and open it, the water inside would be no good to you. It would scald the neck of you. Oh, there was only one thing to do with them bottles. Get rid of them, matter of that, what else happened?
That must have been awful for to throw away all them bottles of water in the middle of the desert.
Well, there you are. There you are.
But I suppose you could have taken the bottles and buried them in a deep hole in a desert and come back to them when the thirst was upon you. The water would be nice and cool then.
What happened next, Mr. Coulihan?
What happened next, I wouldn't like to swear to. Because the heat began to have a very bad effect up here in the attic.
I suppose that had happened.
There's an awful lot of moisture and blood in the brain. You know, the brain is like a wet sponge. And queer things are going to happen. Very queer things.
I suppose you're lucky to be alive at all, Mr. Coulihan.
Very queer things. Well, the first things I noticed was I lost my sense of direction. I didn't know whether my head was my heels or my heels was my head, or whether I was standing or sitting at all. Matter of fact, I was falling all over the place. And so were the lads, falling and crawling on top of each other. Every man as dry as a brick, and his tongue swollen, and his parched mouth nearly choking him. And the thirst. Gentlemen, the thirst! By Christ, the thirst!
Tell me, lads, would anyone mind if I sang the Rose of Tralee?